Charles Leclerc triggered a real earthquake behind the scenes of Formula One by making a statement that, at first glance, might have gone unnoticed. Without raising his voice or openly displaying frustration, the Monegasque driver exposed, through carefully measured words, a much deeper crisis within Ferrari. The trigger for this situation was the Miami Grand Prix, where everything seemed normal on the surface. But behind the curtain, the organizational flaws of the Italian team became evident. The way team orders were communicated and executed, or rather, failed to be implemented effectively, revealed an alarming scenario. When one of the main figures of the team begins to publicly question the decision-making capability of the organization itself, it becomes clear that things are out of control. This is not just about a bad race, it is about a sequence of systemic errors that reflect internal disorganization within a team that once stood for excellence. What is most striking is that all of this was revealed without yelling or scandal. It was a cold, almost surgical alert that trust inside Ferrari is silently but irreversibly fracturing. Sunday in Miami was not just another frustrating episode. It was the point where internal cracks stopped being speculation and became visible even to the public. Orders were issued too late. Position swaps only brought confusion, and both drivers seemed to wander on their own amidst the chaos. Leclerc, by making his statement, was not simply reporting a one-off mistake. He was exposing a crisis in leadership, a lack of clarity and cohesion between those on the track and those behind the scenes. And before we can understand the full impact of this, from the connections to Hamilton's recent complaints, to what it all means for Ferrari's future, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us until the end, because this moment is more than a red alert. It is a sign that Ferrari is standing at the edge of a cliff, perhaps unaware of how close it is to falling. It is crucial to understand what lies behind the cold numbers of the final results. A 7th place for Charles Leclerc and an 8th for Lewis Hamilton might, in theory, appear acceptable within a damage-limiting context. However, those positions hide a much broader strategic collapse. The race was marked by a series of poor decisions, and most importantly, by a lack of true leadership. Rather than making bold calls, Ferrari hesitated. When Hamilton returned to the track with newer, grippier tires and quickly caught up to Leclerc, who was struggling with traction, the logical move would have been to let the faster car through to try and maximize the team's overall result. But that did not happen. Instead of making a clear and immediate decision, the Ferrari pit wall asked Hamilton to stay behind Leclerc, hoping to benefit from aerodynamic drag reduction. But this only placed both drivers at a disadvantage. Dirty air hampered performance, tires overheated, and the team wasted a clear opportunity to move up the field. It was yet another example of how slow, poorly communicated decisions are sabotaging both cars' performance. What really stood out was Leclerc's response after the race. Instead of dodging the issue with generic replies, he was straightforward. He admitted that he had not considered letting Hamilton through, not out of pride or personal rivalry, but because, in his view, Hamilton did not have the pace to make a difference. This confession reveals something far more serious than just a bad judgment call. It shows that Leclerc no longer fully trusts the team's decisions. Instead of following instructions, he opted to control the strategy from inside the car, relying on his own reading of the race. And when a driver begins to act independently, ignoring team command, it signals a critical failure in communication and leadership structure. The trust, which should be a solid pillar between drivers and engineers, is clearly worn thin. After the initial hesitation, the team finally authorized the position swap. But the ideal moment had already passed. Hamilton was unable to capitalize, the tires had lost performance, and the gap to Andrea Antonelli had widened considerably. What followed was a radio request for Leclerc to retake the position, which was granted. But by that point, the race had already slipped away. The team's momentum had vanished, and what remained was a sense of total disorganization. What should have been a simple strategic maneuver turned into an embarrassing sequence, a kind of musical chairs game without rhythm or purpose. Leclerc maintained a calm tone in interviews, thanked Hamilton for his effort, and stated there were no hard feelings. But a closer look reveals he was subtly distancing himself from the chaos created by the team. He made it clear the issue was not between the drivers. The problem was higher up, in the faulty structure that was supposed to be in control. The phrase that resonated the most came out naturally, but hit like lightning. It is frustrating to be fighting for 8th places. This comment, coming from a Ferrari driver, cannot be taken lightly. It symbolizes the downfall of a giant, a team that historically fought for wins and titles, now stuck in the midfield with no clear path to recovery. And what is even more concerning was the implication that the radio messages do not tell the whole story. There are silences, hesitations, uncomfortable pauses between the communications. All of this suggests that the environment inside Ferrari is filled with uncertainty and a lack of direction. What we hear is just the tip of the iceberg. What is felt, both inside and outside the car, is a disorganization that seems to be growing worse. The real bombshell, therefore, was not a single comment. It was the sum of everything said and left unsaid. Leclerc painted, calmly and without hesitation, the picture of a team that has lost its compass, not because of visible internal rivalries, but due to institutional erosion, poor decision-making, slow processes, and a culture of indecision. And in the long term, that may be more harmful than any public feud between teammates, because a divided team can still regroup. But a disoriented team risks imploding silently without realizing it. If you thought Miami was just another rough weekend for Ferrari, think again. That race was a reflection of what the team has become. It was not about pace. It was about purpose, identity, and planning. And if nothing changes soon, team orders will be the least of their problem. Leave your opinion in the comment. Do you believe Ferrari merely failed in execution? Or do the mistakes point to a deeper collapse in its decision-making model? Is Leclerc trying to remain composed while clearly signaling that the team has lost its direction? And most importantly, how long can this situation persist without compromising the rest of the season, especially with rivals like McLaren, Red Bull, and even Mercedes showing more consistency? The reality is that Ferrari stands at a critical crossroad. Its drivers speak cautiously, maintaining a diplomatic tone, but their body language tells a different story. Hamilton and Leclerc are clearly growing impatient, not only because of the car's limitations, but because they see no clear leadership to place their faith in. Each vague message, each poorly explained swap, each strategic hesitation further erodes the bond that should hold the team together. And without that bond, no championship effort can survive. The Miami Grand Prix was just one race, but it exposed something much deeper. Ferrari no longer behaves like a team that knows what it is doing. It hesitates, improvises, and gets lost in its own structure. And if there is no immediate course correction, the damage will go beyond points on the leaderboard. It will affect morale, development, and possibly even the future of the entire campaign. Will Fred Vasseur act with determination and restructure the decision-making process within the team? Will the drivers be granted more voice in critical moments, or will they remain mere components of an increasingly dysfunctional system? The answers to these questions may define not just the fate of the 2025 season, but the path Ferrari will take in the years ahead. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because the storm Leclerc began to signal might just be the beginning of something much bigger. And if Ferrari does not wake up now, it may soon be too late to regain control.